I'm back. You guys like that?
No.
No, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, no, I didn't like
I
that.
missed you guys last week. You missed me?
Yeah,
Eh.
but you're looking like Jake Gyllenhaal in Roadhouse right now. It's freaking me out.
Better, better than looking like Conor McGregor in Roadhouse.
No, he's crazy in that, but he doesn't look like a psychopath. He looks like a normal drunk dude, you know?
He
We
looks
got our
like
own
Conor
little
McGregor.
Yeah,
octagon.
he looks like Conor McGregor.
Oh man, that was certainly one of the movies we've talked about.
It was a
Okay.
masterpiece.
We're talking about Dev Patel's directorial debut, writing, directing, producing, starring in Monkey Man.
Yeah.
A little background on this film before we get into it. It was dropped deep into post-production. It was dropped by its distributor. And aptly enough, Jordan Peele and Monkey Paw Productions swooped in at the 11th hour with a meeting with Dev Patel. Dev showed him the movie, and Peele was like, "Yeah, this reminds me of like the movies from when I was a kid, like in the 80s and 90s. How great it is. It demands to be seen on the big screen." And so Monkey Paw picked it up and got it a theatrical release, got it a theatrical run. That's what we all saw in the last week. I know Benji just walked out of the theater with some interesting trivia questions before coming into
Man, you got trivia?
screening.
Nickelback. Yeah.
But that's another issue entirely. Let's talk about Monkey Man. Gentlemen, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It very much takes inspiration from a movie like John Wick, and sort of does its own spin on it. It's interesting you say that he was reminded of like 80s action movies and stuff because some of the ways that it's shot, it definitely feels that way. You also have like some of the Jason Bourne like shaky cam stuff,
Mhm.
especially like in the stairwells and stuff, especially in the beginning. But yeah, it does a nice variety of things. It even does like first person for a few things. Um, but it does a good job making you feel sort of discombobulated by the combat, which I think is a cool thing. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was really just well put together. It's You can clearly see that Dev Patel, put emphasis on sort of the mythology of Hunaman and just India in general, especially the religious strife that actually occurs over there. I think they did intersperse some like real images, the
Yeah.
videos and things. Obviously, the plot to this movie is not real, but those were real, and that's always been an ongoing thing there since uh, I forget the name of it when everyone was expelled to Pakistan. Um, but yeah, there's lots of religious strife there. It definitely has a more, not that I don't love John Wick and they killed the dog, but it definitely has a more of a soul
Personal.
there.
Sure.
Um, it's
I
definitely a personal thing.
I would say it's more personal than the first John Wick movie, certainly more than two, three, and four.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, we know what Dev Patel can do in front of the camera as an actor. He's immensely talented. He's got a number of good roles under his belt, but to see him kind of take that step back and be able to deliver this, like you said, a highly personal story in the way that he did, it's a great debut.
Yeah.
I thought it was really strong overall, and it was really consistent, I thought. It wasn't, you know, sometimes we get up and down films that in debuts, but this was pretty even, I think, across. And, it wasn't because it tackled necessarily the most complex subject matter, but to his credit, he accomplished, I think, the goals that he set out to fulfill.
Yeah, I
Tell a
mean
good
you
story.
can't do too much. It would detract from like it
Yeah.
is an action film.
Yeah.
And I think that generally it's like you said, Dev Patel is a really good actor. This is probably not what a lot of people would have expected his like directorial debut to be. which is like a very good action film. He clearly had some good stunt coordinators on there, and I think he did a lot of the stunts himself because he said he hurt himself in many ways doing this movie, so he literally bled for it. And it definitely shows uh, his acting past like just the stunts. He shows a little bit more range than perhaps a John Wick, but
Well, it's because
yeah,
Dev can act and Keanu can't. But you know,
yeah,
like
it was
like
great.
one thing I noticed, and I watched, I think a great example of eye acting where you don't have to say a lot with your words and with the dialogue, but you can say a lot with your eyes. Steve McQueen in Bullet, I watched that a couple months ago, and he doesn't say a whole lot in the movie, but he says a lot with his eyes. And what we get from Dev Patel here is a lot of dialogue, sure, but there are so many moments, especially when he recognizes the chief of police, our main antagonist, um, and sort of when he step by step realizes what he has to do next in order to get to his ultimate goal and achieve, you know, vengeance for the death of his mother. I think we see a lot of Dev really acting with his eyes and showing without telling, which as an actor, you can give that kind of performance and it can be absolutely masterful. Steve McQueen in Bullet. Uh, but for him to be directing himself in this role, you can really see how he knows exactly what he wants out of each moment. And having been one of the pens for the screenplay, obviously he knows where dialogue works best and where he can sort of rely on facial expressions and rely on his eyes and rely on, you know, shot selection
Yeah, I
and
mean, this is clearly an
cuts.
auteur project, so
Yeah,
whatever his vision is, that will be executed to the
he
best
knew
of his
exactly what he wanted out of himself, and I think that elicited one of his best performances.
Yeah, I mean, directing yourself can always be there's benefits and like cons to it. I
I
didn't
want
see
to do
many of
it.
the cons.
I want to do it to myself.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe we should compare this movie to A Star is Born. Um,
Or Maestro.
it's directorial debut where he directed himself as well.
Yeah, no, Bradley Cooper, that's
Bradley Cooper might win an Oscar for directing one day. It's just not going
he
to
was
be
good in
anything to
that.
do with music. I think
Maestro,
that's
I think,
his.
is a great example of like when it sort of has some drawbacks, which is you seem to be focusing on your character too much. You know, this
He was
then again,
focusing on his
it's a
character
very
too much,
different
but
film, but huh?
Barry Mulligan was fantastic.
Yeah, they're
but
very
again, I
different
mean,
films.
when we were talking about Maestro, I remember I think one of us, I think it was me that said that I appreciated that Bradley Cooper took some big swings with Maestro, right? And so when I left Monkey Man, it just kind of made me feel like, okay, this is what Dev Patel can do right now. Think about what he can do with, another project, something even more original, something new. And, what can he do next, right? Like it shows the potential. And I think that kind of is where Bradley Cooper and these two guys kind of are on parallel paths, at least in some sense, where there's so much out there. Like we saw what they can do with just their first movie, and they're only going to get better.
Yeah,
And so it's exciting. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but Bradley Cooper's been he's typecast himself as the director of things with music in it,
it's
I do
and
Wonka too.
or I guess just biopic director of musicians. That
Bradley
kind of works too.
Cooper going from Stars Born to Maestro again, very much. I wouldn't call them similar characters that he's playing for himself, but it's a similar vein. It's a musical drama. Um, Obviously biopic for Maestro.
Yeah, I mean, I kind
And
of doubt that Dev Patel would go into another action film, though I might be wrong.
He might
I
do a
would love
musical.
to see him do another action film. I think he earned it with this one. Kind of
Well,
like
I mean, he could do
how,
whatever he wants. I'm just
right.
curious to see what else he can do.
Like, I would say about Gareth Edwards having done Rogue One and The Creator. Yeah, absolutely. Let him do another sci-fi film.
Didn't
Uh,
you do Godzilla too?
I think so.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
So
my point was
absolutely,
that, look, like we should be excited for what comes next from Dev
Yeah.
Patel. Because he showed what he can do. Like he showed it.
not
He
only
proved
what he
it.
can do next, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do like 4, 5, 6 movies from now.
Mhm.
Because with the reps and when he keeps doing this job, honing his craft as a director, because working with himself as an actor is one thing, and he may cast himself in future movies that he does, but really, taking the time to hone the side of directing where you're working with actors as their director and not just, you know, his character is the one on screen for 90% of this movie.
Hmm.
It's about his character. But when you're working with an ensemble cast or with, even 2 or 3 actors who are outside of yourself with different skill sets and repertoires, it's going to be a different experience for him behind the camera. But I think what we see from him directing himself can be applied to an outside situation.
I mean, I have absolutely no idea. It's hard to judge anything from watching one movie. It's clear that he put a
You
lot
don't
of
have the
passion into
sight,
this.
Benjamin.
I guys,
Admit
you
it.
you
You
ever
don't. It's
watch?
okay,
Have
Ben.
you ever seen Dances with Wolves?
Kevin Costner?
Have you ever seen Waterworld, or perhaps The Paper Boy? Movies that came after Dances with Wolves that were
Oh no.
not not the best. Perhaps some might say one of the worst movies ever. Um, Also, I think killed a person during the filming. But I
That's not
digress.
good.
So we're doing the
I
Paperboy
don't think
next.
Dev Patel is going to turn out like that. It's just like I have no idea what he would do with something else. I don't even know if he will direct something in the near term, or if
He
he's
earns
just
it
going
with
to
this, I
continue.
think is the bottom line.
Well, sure, but I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not a studio, and I don't know what movie he's going to produce.
Well, again, studios can, have
I'm
projects,
excited. I
distributors
just
can
have
have a
no
project and
idea.
then drop them.
I'm just not going to say I think he could do something fantastic with his next movie or something. I had, it could be whatever he wants. I just have no idea.
But back to this movie.
Sorry, I didn't want to speculate any further.
No, it's understandable. Uh, what did you guys think of the fight choreography? Because we talked a lot when we did John Wick Chapter 4 right around this time last year. We talked a lot about in all 4 movies how the fights and the stunts and everything just got bigger and bigger and bigger. In this movie, it starts pretty big with his first fight, and then it's a John Wick movie by the end. So I'm curious what you guys think
Yeah,
of the stunts and the fight choreo.
I think it's definitely a bit of a different style. Um, I thought they were all very good. My only complaint would be the shaky cam moments. I don't think they make for very good fight like scenes. I get that you're trying to discombobulate, which I praised earlier, but sometimes you can lay off a little bit so that you can actually see what's happening. That's the one thing, like with John Wick versus something like this, versus a lot of different action movies, is you use a lot of shaky cam. You use a lot of these rough techniques with the camera when you're shooting action. Whereas John Wick kind of wanted to make sure you could see everything. So instead of the camera shaking, everybody else is just moving and getting beaten up. So some people criticized it because it's very choreographed. So they felt like it was leading in, some way. But with shaky cam, it sort of prevents that. But it also kind of makes it hard to like judge the action because it's hard to see. So it looked good. I just don't know how good because I it was hard to see some of the action. But
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part, it was very well done. And Dev Patel did majority of the stunts himself, so
Mhm.
that's very commendable.
John Wick is very stylized in its action. And I think, and its presentation of the action, this movie is much more, I guess you could call it intimate with the shaky cam, with the POV stuff. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
more
bring up,
artistic
yeah,
instead of I guess voyeuristic. I mean, he wants it's less a style and more just he wants to show the stunts. Chad Stileski is a stunt guy. Dev Patel is not a stunt guy. So he's not filming his movie around the action as much as the action is a part of his movie.
Hmm.
that's a good way of putting it.
I mean, that's why the porn movies aren't action movies either. They're just the action's just sort of there.
Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add there. It they're different, but I think for the movies that they're in, it works. Like, I mean, I do think that it did get a little discombobulating every once in a while in Monkey Man, but it wasn't like it took me out or, made me have a negative impression of the movie. It's like, oh, that's too much. But
No, no, it's more I
yeah,
want to see some of the stunts. It's nice to see the work that people put in, and you can see some of them. It's not like everything's shaky. You can
yeah.
clearly see a lot of the sequences, but the staircases, I don't need that.
I
I was
think,
getting dizzy.
I think story-wise, and I do want to talk about the story here for a little bit. Um, the death of the police chief and then that sort of spiritual political guy at the end, I think that they could have been a little bit more cathartic in the way that some of the kills in the John Wick movies are really, really satisfying. And I feel like we don't know enough about these two to the point where we can feel like their deaths are, and obviously they're earned because we know their role in the story. But I just, there was a certain level of punch and impact that I wanted out of those two characters dying, and maybe it was the way they died, but there
I
was something I felt was missing.
I think
with the
it's fine.
spiritual leader, like I feel like definitely him I cared about less because it had less of a personal impact on Dev Patel. Because like yeah, he matters because he is the leader and the police chief really just is the police chief, at the end of the day. But police chief, he's the one that completely ruined his life and is the reason for the movie existing, right? So, I mean, I agree with you on that one, but I also think that the spiritual leader didn't really need to be. I mean, maybe we didn't even need to get that much into the backstory. We could have just focused on his story of going after the police chief.
Yeah, I mean that would be the only thing I criticize is maybe the story is a little incohesive at parts, and there are things that like there's the sovereign party, there's the head guy, the priest or whatever. There's a lot of moving pieces here, which kind of detract from just the straight vengeance story. So
Got a
yeah,
little too
I agree with
saturated in the
that.
third act.
Yeah, I think it would have been better just having the police chief be the end guy,
Agreed.
and because the priest just sort of like goes up there, or Monkey Man goes up there, kills the priest, but then he dies. It's
Like he didn't need to get stabbed at the end. Like
no, it
that,
was it was a little much.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the only thing that like with John Wick, I feel like there is a piece of it where you see Alfie Allen actually kill a dog, and you're like, oh, fuck that dude. But
Mhm.
here you're dealing with flashbacks. It's a little bit more um, disconnected. Uh,
And even the flashbacks themselves are pretty disconnected. Like there are very
yeah,
few like you can follow the threads and the through lines between each individual flashback, but you're not getting like one prolonged, here's 5 to 7 minutes of everything that caused Dev Patel's character to be on this journey of vengeance.
yeah, which I think
And
is
I think that's a smart,
fine.
it's a smart filmmaking choice not to give us everything all at once, but it also, you know, like I said before, sort of takes away from the emotional impact of who that character is.
Yeah, it's an artistic choice. I think personally it works better than doing a like if you're gonna do something in present day, than starting out with the movie with that event and then, going 20 years in the future. Definitely works better as a flashback. I think killing a dog just works better.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean,
also,
it's also somewhat something that everyone, well, maybe not everyone, I guess, because not everyone likes dogs, but a majority of people, probably an overwhelming majority of people, can be like, oh yeah, killing a killing a pet, even if it's not a dog, just like a pet, that's gonna suck, and you're gonna hate whoever did it,
so
especially if you see
I
them
That's
do
did.
it.
why last month I was so up and down in the last 20 minutes of Arthur the King because I
Oh
didn't
my
know
God,
whether
the
that
dog
dog
was
was going
not
to
going to
die.
die.
I
Jesus
didn't know
Christ.
the backstory, Ben.
George,
I was
I
along
still
for
want
the
to kill
ride.
you for you gave that movie 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I did. And I gave Monkey Man 4. I don't really know why.
And you gave Blade Runner 4, Vertigo 4,
You
but I
will not
digress.
let it go that I gave Blade Runner and Vertigo 4.
No, I won't. Why would I let it go?
You,
Um,
you want to play this game? I'll pull up your letterbox right now and I'll make some complaints.
oh my God.
No, we're not going to
I
play this game.
digress. The point that I was going to make is I think, and I said this on the John Wick episode, killing an animal in a film, you always care for them. No matter how horrific a human is, or a human gets tortured in a film, you're always going to care for the animal more. It's the Tony Soprano effect. It's like, uh, actually, I'm not going to say any spoilers for The Sopranos, but yeah, he loves animals a lot more than people, and everyone does. So I feel like that's part of it.
It's an easy way to the
It's
heartstrings.
it's not even like Alfie Allen gets a really meaningful death. He sort of just goes up to him and shoots him in the head while he's saying it was just a fucking dog.
I I gotta rewatch the first John Wick movie because it's been over a year and I
So I think this movie works
it's so cathartic.
almost to the end, and the end it just falters a little bit because the payoff is not quite as strong. But regardless, it's still a very good movie.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we asked this question with John Wick Chapter 4 and maybe once more since then, but what's your favorite kill? You can take a minute to think about it. I'm going to say mine. It's one of the other, you know, nameless bad guys in the club where he stabs him in the face and then has to use his mouth to drive, or in the throat, and has to use his mouth to
Oh yeah,
drive the knife the rest of the
Oh
way.
yeah,
In.
that was
that was pretty
super.
sick.
That's so,
Yeah,
I've never seen
100%.
that before. That was so
I
cool.
think my favorite is the guy in the bathroom who gets shot twice and is trying to get up, and then Dev Patel goes up and just like pulls his legs and he kills him. He just hits his head on the toilet seat and dies. It's like this dude was shot once, then got up, got shot again, and then got killed by a toilet seat. That's great.
George, I'm gonna take yours. I think it was the knife in the mouth. Like that was a memorable one for
That
sure.
was
It's
very
so
cool.
creative.
That was a great one.
Well, it fits with the monkey theme,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then why didn't he pick it up with his foot and use his foot?
Well, he's got shoes on.
Oh, that.
Now
Thank you.
Ben's got
Thank you
an
for explaining that in a
explanation.
way that I understood.
Ben's got an explanation for everything, doesn't he?
Max, it's been 2.5 years. We know this about Ben.
Yeah, yeah. Ben is like that. George, you won't get this because you haven't seen it, but it was in Late Night with the Devil. It was like Carmichael. He's got a rational explanation for everything.
Yeah, that's actually an old gagging trick.
I was out of town last week. I didn't see the movie.
You gotta
Mhm.
watch that movie, George. It's great.
It's really good. Yeah.
Also, you were
I
talking about
I watched I watched your episode on it. You guys and Declan had some fun. You had some fun at
yeah,
my
but that's not
expense
the
too.
Good.
But we'll move past that.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great action film. It's not that like there's not that much going on, so there's not that much more I feel like I need to add.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
great first effort, like
Yeah,
I'll say it again, right? And like I know we don't want to predict much, but that doesn't stop me from still being like, oh, okay, this dude has some talent on both sides of the camera, and I want to see where his mind takes us, right?
no,
Like
that's completely fine. It was more to George's. I want to see where his fifth, sixth, seventh movie
I
is
said
going to
fourth,
go.
fifth, sixth. I don't know about his seventh yet.
That's that's my bad.
seventh one might be shit.
Yeah,
So
the seventh one is
We
the
don't know.
worst one. Everybody
We don't
knows.
know. The only guarantee is that when we get to a seventh or eighth movie, I trust Christopher McQuarrie more than any other director. But
Of
anyway,
course you do.
um, yeah, just one more note about Dev Patel and this being his directorial debut, is that we have seen what he can do in front of the camera. That is part of what drew us to this movie, right? Is we all like Dev Patel. We know how strong he is as an actor. You know, we saw Jordan Peele's name attached to this as a producer. We know his strength as a director. We know if his name is attached, it's going to be a quality film. And I think without those two attached to this project, without those two involved in Monkey Man, I don't know if I would have seen this. I don't know if we would have talked about it. I feel like there are a lot of movies that we've done where it's one name or or a couple of names that get us interested in something, and then we do an episode on it and have a good dialogue for half an hour, 40 minutes. And with Monkey Man, again, we love the John Wick movies. It was an action movie, even if there were no names, no huge names attached to it. Maybe we would have seen it, maybe we wouldn't have. But I think what we end up with here is a very, very strong first effort from Dev Patel as a director. Uh, Another strong entry in the film canon of Jordan Peele. He certainly knows how to pick them, and it just it gets me excited about some under the radar movies that you know aren't necessarily the headline grabbers coming up for the rest of the year and beyond, where we could say, hey, this looks kind of interesting. Let's talk about it. And
I
I
will
think
say though,
we
George,
get a
I'm
strong
sorry to
movie.
interrupt,
No, go
but
ahead.
the last two movies that we did, Late Night with the Devil and Monkey Man, were the most full I've seen theaters for a
Really?
non-big blockbuster. Yeah, I mean they were packed. Late Night with the Devil was packed. The only open rows were the front three that no one ever sits in, and then for Monkey Man, there were maybe small pockets of seats that were
When
empty,
did you see
but
him?
it was mostly full. I saw it on um like a Wednesday. No, I saw it on Sunday night at like 7 o'clock. So it's not a super late. It's a great time for people to see movies. And Late Night with the Devil, I saw it at 7 o'clock on like a Tuesday or something. So, you know, great times for people and they were packed. So it was really, really nice to see.
Yeah, my screening of Monkey Man, it was at like 12:30 on a Tuesday, which is when a lot of people are working, but that's my day off. So, but it was still, I would say, at least two-thirds of the way full,
That's great.
which for a Tuesday afternoon for Dev Patel's first directing movie
Hmm.
is pretty damn good. Again, speaks to his name recognition, speaks to the early reviews that this movie got, and the reviews since it opened on Friday.
Yep.
And how was your crowd? You saw it tonight.
There were two people in there. Um, I don't
I
know
love
why.
that answer.
Sometimes this theater just doesn't get huge crowds, so they're typically not that full.
Yeah, there are four, or historically there have been four theaters that I sort of rotate around. One closed right away at the beginning of the pandemic and has not reopened. One just closed last summer, and the one that closed last summer did like all of the sort of backlot, second tier, non-blockbuster movies where they still get a limited theatrical run. That's where all the limited theatrical run movies ended up, and that's where I would see them. Like that's where I saw The Menu. That's where I saw Blackberry last summer. That's where I saw The Creator, which is probably a bad example because it was a pretty big movie. Uh,
Pretty sure that was not. These are not limited release movies.
Blackberry was, and The Menu maybe, and Spirited definitely was. I saw Spirited there.
I don't think
Oh, well,
that
Spirited was.
Menu and Spirited, I don't think were because I know they made it all the way down here for the independent and the big that they made it to AMC too.
I
Oh,
know Spirited was mainly a streaming thing. They were just in theaters for a little
Hmm.
bit.
like a week,
But
like
yeah, it's not limited release technically.
all right, but like smaller scale movies ended up
Sure.
at the theater, and it closed last summer. Um,
Non-blockbusters.
Non-blockbusters, sure.
Yeah.
Uh, but you know, support your movie theaters.
Yes.
Uh, go see movies in the theater. Go see Monkey Man. It's we all give it a ringing endorsement. CinemaCon's going on right now. You got a bunch of big name actors talking about the importance of going to movie theaters. Tom Cruise can't save them all by himself, so make sure that you buy tickets to go see any movie you can. You have a free night, a free afternoon. Check out a movie.
If you can find Medea, or Medea's Haunted House, or any of the Medea
Boo
movies,
2, a Medea Halloween.
yeah, Boo 2, please go and see that in the theaters. It will help out a lot.
Speaking of theatrical movies, we're doing another one next week. We are talking about Alex Garland's Civil War. Got us some Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, Nick Offerman. It's the movie that made Alex Garland want to stop directing, even though he's got another project lined up. So
He just said that he doesn't actually want to, but
I know.
he wishes people would stop bothering him.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that could apply to all of us. Anyway, we're talking about Civil War next week. In the meantime, go enjoy Monkey Man. Dev Patel is great. That's all from us tonight. So watch some good movies. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.